Hi everyone! After looking over your TDAs, I thought it might be helpful if I talk through my thought process when I write analysis, specifically what I am looking for. So the prompt I decided to pick deals with the life lessons with Atticus activity that we did at the beginning of the week that we wrote the TDA. So I picked this prompt that reads, how does Atticus show Scout how to be a good person in To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee? So the very first thing I'm going to do is I am going to turn my question around and answer it. So turning your question around is probably the easiest part of this whole writing process. So what I would do is I would say, tab it obviously to start a new paragraph, in To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, Atticus shows Scout how to be a good person by. So that would be me turning around the question. And now I'm going to answer the question. I've decided that I'm going to use a quote from that first part of chapter 9 where Atticus is telling Scout that she needs to keep her head high when dealing with bullies who are calling her and Atticus mean names. So that is where I'm going to start. So I'm going to say, by being a good person by, now let me think of how I want to word it. Sometimes this can be hard. Okay, like I totally understand. So what I think I'm going to say is Atticus shows Scout how to be a good person by helping her through tough situations with schoolyard bullies. Her through tough situations with schoolyard bullies. Okay, so there's my first sentence, okay? Your T and your A should just be one sentence. One thing I saw from a lot of people is they tried to re-put their start sentence in for the T and the A, and sometimes that doesn't work because each of your paragraphs is going to be focusing on a very specific thing. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce my quote, okay? This was another thing I saw a lot of people wanting to summarize the quote first, but really you need to introduce the quote before you can summarize the situation. So the quote that I'm going to pick is the try to fighting with your head for a change. It's a good one even if it does resist learning. So I'm going to say, because Atticus is the one saying this, I'm going to say Atticus explains to Scout that she needs to, and then try fighting with your head for a change, ... It's a good one even if it does resist learning. Now, what I need to do next, because that's the end of my quote, is I need to not punctuate it because it looks like there's a period at the end of this quote. So what I'm going to do is end quote it, space, and then do my parenthetical citation. So in this case, it's a Lee, and this quote was found on page 101, and then I put a period. That's a comma. That's a period. So you might notice right here, this is specifically what I am looking for. So it's the last sentence. You don't have any punctuation here. You need to space, okay? And then Lee 100. There's no comma. Nothing needs to go in here other than the page number and the author's last name. Okay. I also want to point out the way that I introduced my quote, okay? I did this in a little bit more of a fancy way. So I basically built a sentence around this quote, okay? I could have said, in chapter 9, Atticus explains, and then the quote. But I thought I wanted to do something a little different. This is a little bit more of an advanced move where you're trying to build a sentence around it. So far, my TAICE paragraph reads, in To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, Atticus shows Scout how to be a good person by helping her through tough situations with schoolyard bullies. Atticus explains to Scout that she needs to try fighting, and what I'm going to do here. So, because Atticus is saying this to Scout, however, we are dealing with, we're talking in third person. So I'm going to take out the word your. I'm going to put a bracket and I'm going to put her space. So that just makes the sentence grammatically correct. So this sentence now reads, Atticus explains to Scout that she needs to try fighting with her head for a change. It's a good one, even if it does resist learning. Lee 100. So that is your first two sentences. If you look on the right side of the screen, you'll see that it has the T and the A and the I and the C. We basically have what I would consider the quote-unquote easy part of this TDA done. Now we're going to look at the actual meat and potatoes of our TDA. So this analysis is what we really care about, okay? What I saw in your TDAs is you guys are really good at summarizing and starting the analysis process, but you're not quite getting it to the next step that we need it to be. So that is what we are going to do next. Okay, the very first thing I need to do is summarize the situation. One thing that I am not going to do is I'm not going to write this quote shows or in this quote or pointing out the quote at all. Okay, we do not use this quote shows or this quote reflects. That's a elementary school type thing that I know that you guys probably did a little bit in 7th grade, but we're now in 8th grade. We're in advanced ELA. We're going to move past that. So I am going to summarize the situation by talking about how Scout is being bullied at school because her father is defending a black man and Atticus is trying to help her through that. So I'm going to write something similar to what I just said. Say Scout is having issues with bullies at school because her father, I'm just going to say because Atticus over her father, because Atticus is defending a black man. So Atticus wants to help her be above the bullying and not physically fight. Okay, that's all I'm writing for a summary. Literally that one sentence is all I'm putting for a summary. So now I need to actually analyze. I need to actually think. One of the things that I'm thinking right now is how does Atticus do this through his words? Okay, why does he want Scout to be above this situation? Why does this help her become a better person? Okay, thinking about, as I said, all I did was I reworded this prompt to think, why does Atticus want Scout to be a better person? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how does it answer the prompt, okay? So I'm going to say by advising her not to fight, Atticus, I'm going to put telling. I don't like the word telling, but telling is the word that is coming to me right now. Is telling Scout that being a better person means not always resorting to anger and violence. Okay? That is what Atticus is doing by advising her not to fight. He doesn't want her to go and be mad. Now, we have read, by this point, you've definitely read up to and including chapter 16. You might have read the trial so far. So you know why this is important. But in chapter 9, we don't really know why it is important for him to be saying this to her. We just know that this horrible trial is coming along, so that is why he doesn't want to. So basically, that's how it answers the prompt. Being a better person means not always resorting to anger and violence, okay? This is where I saw a lot of you stop in your analysis, but we need to take it to the next step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how, and I can talk about the rest of chapter 6 or chapter 9. So what I might do is I think I'm going to be putting, for answering the second question, I have why is it important, why this quote is specifically important, and why does it show this? I think I'm going to talk about how we see these negative words being used about Atticus. So what I'm going to talk about is Scout's first instinct is to defend her father when negative words are said about him. However, this defense only causes her to get into further trouble with her teachers and father. Atticus wants to make sure that his children are civilized and respectful people, which means walking away from a fight and not engaging when someone is trying to provoke them. Okay? So, what I just did there. So, as I said, a lot of you stopped after this particular sentence. So Atticus is telling Scout that by being a better person means not always resorting to anger and violence. What I did here, what I talked as I typed, was I thought about the situation. Okay, Scout's first instinct is to fist fight. She's a tomboy. We kind of see this through all of part 1, is she wants to be like a boy in the sense that she wants to be able to stand up and use her fists, which is kind of, at least in Harper Lee's world, the way most boys react to negative situations. However, that obviously doesn't stick well with her father or with her teachers, which is why she gets in trouble. Okay, so basically, this defense, her first line of defense I'm talking about, is to do this, but it's causing issues. So I'm explaining this idea of how she is currently resorting to anger and violence. The next sentence, I talk about what Atticus wants from his children. And we see this throughout a lot of chapter 9. He wants his children to rise above it. He knows it's going to be hard on them. So he's trying to instill this lesson that they need to be above it all. So in the case of Scout, that means walking away from a fight and not engaging when someone is trying to provoke them. So what I think I'm going to do next, so far I have, that looks like about 3 sentences of analysis, okay? I feel I could go a little further with this analysis, and I think I'm going to talk about the implications, just real quick in a single sentence, the implications of them walking away from a fight and what that might mean for their development later on in the book. So I'm going to say, by walking away from a fight, Scout is learning how, that's his leaning, learning how to process her feelings in a, I don't want to say positive way, in an effective way, which might come in handy when the actual trial of Tom Robinson happens. So what I did in this sentence is, I should have an effective way. What I did in this sentence was explain why it is important, basically what she's doing by walking away, and then, so she's learning how to process her feelings in an effective way, okay? Violence is, as we say, never the answer. So it's more effective for her to learn how to ignore and walk away. And then I also make a prediction here. So I talk about how this might come in handy when the trial of Tom Robinson happens. That's a big discussion in chapter 9, so it's important to also include that. And then finally, I need to connect my analysis back to the prompt. So I'm going to say, and I'm going to not use the word by because I feel like I've done this twice. I started a sentence with a prepositional phrase by. So I'm going to say, Atticus teaches Scout that being a good person requires you to use your head over your hands when it comes to, I don't want to say disagreements, when it comes to disputes with others. Okay, that is my TAICE paragraph. So let's talk about it a little bit further, and I'm going to kind of break it into these parts so you can see. So we've got the T and the A, I and the C, and the E. Okay, so as you can see, the T and the A, single sentence. So in To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee shows Atticus shows Scout how to be a good person by helping her through tough situations with schoolyard bullies. Okay, that's what he's doing in the quote that I picked. Then I have this little bit more of an advanced I in here. So Atticus explains to Scout that she needs to, and then try fighting with her head for a change. It's a good one, even if it does resist learning. I have my quote that is properly punctuated, and that looks good. So now we have the E. So as I said, if you see on the right side of the screen, I talk about how the first thing I needed to do was summarize the context. And I did that in a single sentence. So Scout is having issues with bullies at school because Atticus is defending a black man. So Atticus wants to help her be above the bullying and not physically fight. Okay. And then, of course, this last sentence is that last connector sentence, so I'm also going to separate it. So my actual analyzing of the quote is the largest part of my TDA. So I say by advising her not to fight, Atticus is telling Scout that being a better person means not always resulting to anger and violence. I'm connecting it up here. Okay, this first sentence actually answers this question, okay? He tells her not to fight, and that is helping her be a better person because it's telling her not to resort to anger and violence, okay? The next part then is analyzing this further. It's going a little bit more in depth with a further explanation and thinking about why does he want her to be this better person? So then it says Scout's first instinct is to defend her father when negative words are said about him. However, this defense only causes her to get into further trouble with her teachers and father. I'm going to be honest, this sentence summarizes a little bit, but it's explaining more about what her first instinct is and why is she resorting to this anger and violence. Next, it says Atticus wants to make sure that his children are civilized and respectful people, which means walking away from a fight and not engaging when someone is trying to provoke them. By walking away from a fight, Scout is learning how to process her feelings in an effective way. I'm going to change the grammar here because I just did a comma which up here. I'm going to say, and this might come in handy when the actual trial of Tom Robinson happens. So what I'm doing here is I'm explaining why is it so important that Scout learns how to walk away from a fight and how might it be relevant later on in the novel. And then lastly, I have Atticus teaches Scout that being a good person requires you to use your head over your hands when it comes to disputes with others. So when I in the future say you haven't gone far enough, this is kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that good explanation, that good going in depth with why is your citation, why does it answer this question, but also how is it answered throughout the entire novel. So that is what I am expecting from all of you in the future.